It was supposed to be just another morning show, the kind people watch while sipping their first cup of coffee, half listening as political experts debate, joke, and analyze the latest headlines. The studio lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and everything was running smoothly. At least, that's how it seemed. Until one moment changed everything. During a live interview that millions of Americans were tuned into, a well-known political reporter, someone who had built a reputation for being witty, outspoken, and occasionally ruthless, decided to take things a little too far. As the discussion turned to former President Donald Trump's influence on American politics, the reporter smirked and leaned closer to the camera. With that trademark sarcastic tone he was famous for, he said, "Maybe if Trump spent less time posting on social media and more time listening to people, things would have turned out differently." Even Melania might agree with that. Words hung in the air like a thunderclap. For a split second, there was silence, the kind that feels heavier than any sound. Then came a few nervous chuckles from the panel, a forced laugh from the host, and a collective gasp from the live studio audience. Everyone in the room could tell the comment had crossed a line. Mocking a former president was one thing that came with the territory. But dragging his wife, the former First Lady, into the punchline? That was different. The cameraman shifted uncomfortably. The host, trying to keep the show on track, quickly changed the subject, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Clips of the remark were already being clipped, recorded, and shared online within seconds. But what no one in that studio knew, not the reporter, not the producers, not even the audience, was that Melania Trump herself was watching the show live from home. She saw the smirk, she heard the comment, and she caught every word. And as she sat there in silence, her reaction would soon set off a chain of events that would dominate news headlines around the world. No one could have predicted it, but that single, careless joke was about to become one of the most talked-about TV moments of the year. Within minutes, the moment went viral. Clips of the reporter's remark began spreading like wildfire across every major social media platform. Twitter, or X as it's now called, lit up with outrage. Instagram feeds filled with short video edits of the smirk, the comment, and the stunned reaction from the studio audience. On TikTok, users added dramatic music, slow-motion effects, and captions like, "Did he really just say that?" Within an hour, hashtags like hashtag MELANIA response and hashtag reporter disrespect were trending worldwide. Supporters of Donald Trump wasted no time defending the former First Lady. Thousands of posts poured in, condemning the journalist's disrespectful and unprofessional behavior. Some demanded an on-air apology, while others called for the network to take action. But not everyone agreed. A number of people argued it was just a joke, harmless political banter. Comment sections became digital battlegrounds where supporters and critics clashed, each side convinced they were right. The debate was fierce, emotional, and impossible to ignore. And through it all, one question kept popping up everywhere. What does Melania think? At first, most people assumed she would stay silent. After all, Melania Trump has always been known for her composure, the kind of calm presence that rarely reacts publicly, no matter how loud the noise gets. Her silence had often been her strength, but this time, she broke it. That evening, without warning, Melania Trump posted on her official social media account. No lengthy statement, no fiery rant. Just one short, carefully chosen sentence. She wrote, "When people mock others to get attention, it says more about their character than the person they mock."
That was it.
No hashtags, no follow-up, just pure, poised confidence. Within minutes, the internet erupted. Her post was shared by celebrities, journalists, and political figures alike. It gathered millions of likes and tens of thousands of comments in just a few hours. Even people who weren't fans of the Trumps found themselves nodding in respect. Commenters called her message classy, powerful, and the perfect response. Memes, fan edits, and motivational graphics featuring her, quote, began circulating online. In a single sentence, Melania Trump had flipped the narrative completely, turning a public insult into a moment of grace, and reminding the world that sometimes the calmest voice carries the loudest impact at first. The reporter who made the controversial remark didn't seem bothered at all. In fact, just hours after the clip went viral, he decided to respond not with humility but with sarcasm. He tweeted a single laughing emoji, followed by the words, "Some people can't take a joke." That post poured gasoline on an already raging fire. His attempt to downplay the situation only made things worse. Within minutes, replies flooded in thousands of them. Viewers accused him of being arrogant, dismissive, and tone-deaf. People began tagging the television network that employed him, demanding accountability. Then, the sponsors got involved. Several companies that advertised during his show started receiving a wave of angry emails and calls from customers saying they would boycott their products if the issue wasn't addressed. The pressure was building, and fast. By the next morning, the controversy had grown beyond social media. It was everywhere. Morning talk shows opened with the story. Entertainment programs ran dramatic headlines like "Reporter crosses the line on live TV." Political commentators debated whether the remark was freedom of speech or professional misconduct. And the most shared headline of all? Read, "Melania fires back with class." Clips of Melania's graceful one-sentence response were being replayed across major networks. News anchors praised her for her calm and poise. Even those who disagreed with her husband's politics couldn't help but admire her restraint. Meanwhile, the reporter's image took a hit. What had started as an offhand comment now threatened his credibility and career. Behind the scenes, sources said producers were worried about the show's reputation. Finally, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control, the reporter appeared on camera again, this time with a very different tone. He spoke carefully, his usual smirk gone. "I want to clarify," he began. "My comments were meant as light humor. I didn't intend to offend Mrs. Trump or anyone else. If my words came across as disrespectful, I apologize." But by then, the damage was already done. The apology felt forced, and the public wasn't convinced. Melania's calm, elegant response had already won the internet, and no amount of backtracking could erase that, in the court of public opinion. The verdict was clear. Melania Trump had handled the situation with grace. While the reporter's arrogance had turned a joke into a career, lessened just when everyone thought the drama had faded and the headlines had moved on, Melania Trump did something that no one, not the media, not her critics, not even her supporters, saw coming. A few days after the viral controversy, she made her first public appearance since the incident. The event was focused on one of her signature causes as First Lady, anti-bullying, and online kindness. Part of her well-known Be Best initiative. It was held in a large school auditorium filled with hundreds of students, teachers, and community leaders. The crowd was buzzing with anticipation. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. Everyone wondered, would she address the viral comment? As Melania took the stage, she looked composed, elegant, and completely in control. Dressed in her trademark style, sophisticated yet simple, she greeted the audience with a soft smile. Her tone was calm, her posture straight, her presence commanding. Then she began to speak about the power of words and the importance of compassion. Her message took on a deeper, unmistakable meaning. Though she never mentioned names, everyone in the room, and later, everyone watching, knew exactly what she was referring to, she said. In her measured, graceful voice, "In today's world, many use words to hurt others not because they are strong, but because they are afraid. True strength is in kindness, in holding your dignity, and choosing not to respond with hate." For a moment, the room fell completely silent. Then came the applause, long, loud, and heartfelt. The students stood, teachers nodded, and even the reporters covering the event looked moved. It wasn't just a speech, it was a statement. That short, powerful moment was replayed across every major news channel and flooded social media once again. Commentators praised her poise, her subtlety, and her timing. Many said it was one of her best public appearances since leaving the White House. Even some of her longtime critics had to admit, Melania Trump had done what few public figures can do. She turned a moment of mockery into a masterclass in composure and grace. She didn't fight back with anger or ego. She fought back with dignity, and she won. In the weeks that followed, the viral moment refused to fade away. It continued to dominate discussions on talk shows, podcasts, and social media threads. Everyone had an opinion. Some argued that public figures like the Trumps should have thicker skin, that jokes and jabs come with the territory of fame and politics. But others saw it differently. They believed there was a clear line between humor and humiliation, and that dragging someone's family into the spotlight for a cheap laugh crossed that line. The debates were loud, emotional, and endless. Yet, amid all the noise, one thing became crystal clear. Melania Trump's response had changed the tone of the conversation. Her calm, composed words became the new example of how to deal with public ridicule, with elegance, not anger. She didn't fire off angry tweets, didn't demand an apology, and didn't play the victim. Instead, she let her silence and her grace do the talking. That choice earned her something that's rare in modern media: respect from both sides. Even some of her critics, who had often dismissed her in the past, admitted she handled the situation beautifully. Analysts described her as strategically silent, while fans called her the embodiment of grace under pressure. The incident also reminded Americans why Melania continues to captivate attention, even when she isn't in the spotlight. Her quiet strength, her soft-spoken nature, and her ability to say so much with so few words make her stand out in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard. By the end of the month, surveys showed a surprising uptick in her favorability ratings. News outlets began reporting on what they called the Melanian effect, a renewed wave of public admiration for her composure and dignity. Comment sections overflowed with praise. She handled that perfectly. That's how you respond with class, not chaos. Melania just gave a master class in maturity. Meanwhile, the reporter's reputation took a hit. Though he kept his job, the public's trust had been shaken. Many viewers admitted they couldn't watch him the same way again, in an era where outrage dominates headlines. Melania Trump's subtle, sophisticated response stood out as a rare reminder that true strength doesn't always shout sometimes. It simply speaks with calm confidence. And that's how a single, elegant sentence from Melania turned an ordinary TV jab into one of the most unforgettable moments of the year, a story that proved beyond doubt that grace, when tested, still wins.